What is up, guys? It's your boy Kevin Yee, the Farm D, aka Kevin the Refugee. Today I am starting my stream a little earlier because I'm actually going to the Jump Cut Academy meetup in LA. So I'm gonna head there around 6:30ish, meet some cool creators, really try to find new guests on my channel, and do a lot of cool things. First of all, really glad that you guys liked my last video because if you haven't watched it, it's about the fear of success. I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and it happens with us with money, starting a business, dating, all that mother bullshit today. So yeah, guys, I'm glad that you really like that thing. I know like recently my streams have been lagging a little bit, so that's my internet connection. I don't know why it's so shitty, but yeah, man. But I'm glad to see that there's a lot of exciting things happening. I should have a good series coming out. I think you're gonna really enjoy this. I'm actually flying down one of my friends to do to shoot it, so it should be pretty cool. Can't wait. And my computer's already lagging. Holy shit. Okay, that sucks. But anyways, guys, let me get to the stream. So as you guys know, it's Memorial Day weekend. I think it's Memorial Day weekend. It's kind of funny when you stop working, or like when you're working on your own time, you kind of forget all the holidays and shit. So I think it's Memorial Day. But yeah, if you guys don't know, my dad was actually a Vietnam vet, and my conclusion about my dad was that he's actually really struggling like with PTSD. Patrick, what's up? Welcome to the Sunday stream. Yeah, but my dad was actually really struggling with PTSD, and he took it out on like my mom, my brother, and mostly me and my mom took most of the brunt of it. But yeah, so today I wanted to remember my dad. For y'all that don't know, my dad passed away about maybe 5 months ago. So it's been a little bit, but I thought I would tell 3 different stories that I would say kind of would describe my dad. And when I think about these stories, it makes me laugh a little bit. It's kind of like love-hate relationship. I'm like a little bit is just like fuck, like damn, I can't believe that shit happened. And then yeah, but let's get into it, man. And looks like, dude, I don't know why. Dude, the stream is already sucking ass for some reason. But okay, let's get it. Oh, by the way, for y'all that don't know, 7-Eleven coffee is pretty damn good. I'm drinking hazelnut right now. It's one of the things that wakes my ass up. Oh, speaking about coffee and all that, I actually just recently ordered my test batch for Refugee Hustle merch, so that should be coming really soon. I can't wait to show it to y'all. It's going to a really good cause. I'm going to be donating at least 25% of my profits to the UN Refugee Agency, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, anyways, on to my dad. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever gone through this before, but I feel like one of the not taboo subjects of like Asian households, but it's like one thing that a lot of Asian parents don't talk about is the birds and the bees. So your dating life. And I think growing up, I'm not sure if like a lot of you other, like if you guys grew up in an Asian household or anything, I'm not sure if you guys have gone through this at all, but I used to get teased all the fucking time in my household. And I felt very kind of like very nervous about introducing different girls, especially when I was younger. I remember the first girl I ever sort of liked, I was like 6th grade. She was this whack girl. I had a crush on this white girl in my class, and I don't know how, like we used to talk on the phone and stuff. I used to see her after school. I don't know, you just get those butterflies when you see someone you like, right? And I remember we were trying to meet up or something like that. We're trying to meet up and go on our first date. And I don't know, for me, I've always had the kind of like a weird perception about dating. Because I don't know, like with Asian families, you always get teased, dude. Like they're like, "Ooh, Kevin likes a girl," and I'm like, "Oh man, this is fucking awkward." But I remember because of this like type of environment, right? I was always very shy about telling my family that I really like girls and shit. So I hid it, just like every other Asian person. Like I know I'm not the only Asian person who hides the fact that they might have a boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So for me, I hid it from my parents, and I think this was back in, let's see, if this was fifth grade. I don't even know how old fifth graders are, or sixth grade, sixth grade. I don't even know how old. Maybe I was like 10 or 11. I was pretty fucking young. Um, but nice refugee hustle logo. Looks dope. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm launching all the merch, man. So keep a good eye out for it. But anyways, I don't know how old you are when you're like in fifth grade. Let's say I was like 12. Okay, I'll say I was 12. So when I was 12, so maybe it's like maybe 1996 or 19, I don't remember. But back when I was like a teen, the internet was like a new thing. It like this is before cable internet existed. This was before like back in the day you had to use your landline, your telephone line, and it would be like you literally have to dial in and your internet would go those are some pretty bad sounds, but you get the picture. So this is back in the day where you used to piss off your mom for being on the internet. If you want to play StarCraft or Warcraft or Counter-Strike, dude, it would piss them off so much. And anyways, so I was big on being online because back in the day we used to use something called AIM. Think about your Facebook Messenger, but instead of using your real name, we had screen names. I remember like my first screen name was like Captain Vegito or something like that. Really pretty lame, but yeah. I also still use one of my screen names. It's Asian Hakwai or Asian Hakwai, and that that was one of my childhood names, because I am sort of Asian, but I've always embraced like black culture, black music, all that sort of stuff. I really embrace the hustle mentality. Anyways, so that was okay, so back to my story. So yeah, I was big on the internet. We used to talk to people on the internet and stuff like that. But you know how older people are? They're kind of like reserved against the internet. It's not a huge thing for them. They're like there's all these stories about child abductions or like pedophiles going online and stuff. It's probably one of the reasons why How to Catch a Predator was such a big show, right? But yeah, so there was like what happened? So I wanted to go on a date. I set this time up. And I remember I was like in Chinese school at the time. And I was just like, hey, you know what? I'll go back home, eat lunch, and I'll meet you at the movie theater to go to on a date. And it was my first date. I think it was at the movie theater, right? Pretty lame. But I remember my dad, I was like, hey dad, can you drive me to a movie theater after Chinese school and stuff? He's like, oh yeah, no problem. And then I still remember like, okay, so I go to Chinese school. I'm hella excited because, it's my first date. I had very low self-confidence back then. I wasn't confident when I spoke to girls. I wasn't confident about a lot of things, but yeah. So Chinese school ends and I'm just like, yes, I get to go on my first date. And I eat lunch. I think my dad probably made like mac and cheese or like hot dogs or some shit. I used to eat really bad like when I was a kid. If you never seen my dad, he's kind of on the bigger side. And it's probably why he passed away at the age of 70 because his dietary habits were horrible. He loved getting potato chips and shit. But anyways, that's another story. So I remember walking to the car and my dad was asking like, hey, who are you going with? And he's pretty friendly at the time. I was just like, oh, just a friend. And he was like, oh, okay, which friend? And I was like, just a friend. Now this is where he starts getting hella suspicious. He's like, yo, like what friend? I was like, And like literally he's yelling at me. He's like, I'm not gonna let you go online and like talk to these internet people and have you abducted and shit. And I'm like, at this point, I'm fucking crying because I don't want to tell my parents because they're teasing the fuck out of me for dating. But at the same time, like I really want to go on my date because I made a promise to my girlfriend back then. And so like it was really funny now that I'm looking back on it. I was like crying and I was like, I'm going with a girl, I'm going with my girlfriend, all right? And like, dude, I remember he felt kind of bad for yelling at me. And for y'all that don't know, my dad always yelled at me. He yelled at me for everything, even when things that weren't my fault. That's probably why I had such low confidence, but self-confidence. But it was just really, really funny. So I go to the movie theater and my eyes are fucking bloodshot and shit. And like, cause you know that feeling after you're crying and stuff. I'm just like, yeah, I remember, I'm not even sure if we actually watched the movie. Maybe it was like, what movie did I watch? I think it was that crappy J-Lo movie, like Love Don't Cost a Thing or The Wedding Planner or some shit like that. Some like J-Lo movie and whatnot. But yeah, man, that was my first date. And then I remember my dad, after he yelled at me, he was like, well, guess I don't gotta talk to you about the birds and bees. I was like, damn. But that goes to show you, my dad, that was the type of person my dad was. He was like a person that was like really about hard love, you know what I mean? He was very caring behind everything he did, but he just didn't do the best at expressing it all the time. So streaming early, yeah, new founder. I'm streaming a little earlier today just because I have an event to go to later tonight. So I just wanted to like stream with y'all, get some stream time in, catch some people. It looks like right now there's not a lot of people. There's only like 2 or 3 people in my stream, but it's all good. I know my numbers have been like kind of shitting the bed for the streams, but it's okay. It's all good, man. Damn, love that coffee. So that's story 1, man. Like my so like I don't know, that event really traumatized me, and I've always been very scared to introduce any sort of girls to, or tell my family that I like girls and stuff. It got so bad where like my parents actually thought I was gay at one point. And they tried setting me up with like different Chinese girls. Like they would be like, oh, we have this family, like they have a daughter, do you want to meet, or not in Vietnamese accent, but they're like, do you want to meet her? And I was like, yeah. And a few times, I have to say, when you hear a Chinese friend, you think this dorky ass person, right? But when I met this person, I was like, damn, this girl's hot. She's hot as shit. So anyways, that's another story. The second story was yeah, I remember like, okay, so I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I wasn't planning to tell the story, but one of, you know, I was always kind of a weird kid back then. So this is story 2. I was always a weird kid, and I feel like very grateful because my parents, like my dad was very cheap. I mean, half the time we would spend like going out to eat for us meant was going to Costco, buying a pizza, maybe buying a hot dog too, taking that free, you know, that free drink that you get, and sharing it with all of us. And I was like, damn, those are my memories. I'm not complaining, dude. Those are some of the best memories ever. Like I love that Costco pizza combo special. Damn, that is good value right there. Those prices have not changed since I was a kid, dude. But yo, so yeah, my dad loved cheap junk food. He was like, loved it. And one of the things I feel very grateful for, so reason why I talked about that was because even though that my dad was like very cheap sometimes, like he would never cheap out on vacations. I remember when I was like 8 or 10 years old, my parents asked me, where do you want to go? And I was like, I want to go to Las Vegas. Now, I don't hear a lot of kids being like, hey, let's go to Las Vegas and shit. You know what I mean? But my parents actually took us to Las Vegas. And we stayed at Luxor. You know, the pyramid Egyptian theme and shit. One of the reasons why they had a kick-ass arcade, one of the biggest arcades in Las Vegas. I remember one night I was just there all night playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That's my favorite childhood game. Like back in the day when you had arcades, you would have to feed them quarters, right? And if you want to claim your stake, you just like put it on like top of the screen and you're like, I'm next, bitch. You know, so that's what I did in Vegas. But my dad, back to my dad. My dad, I remember like growing up, me and my dad, like my whole family, we used to watch Travel Channel together. And I don't remember what show it was, but it was like something like about like good eats and stuff. And yeah, my dad saw this like, I don't know, dollar hot dog thing in Vegas and shit. So my dad really, really wanted to check it out because my dad loves junk food. He loves chips. He loves like hot dogs and pastrami and all those like processed meat things or those salty like things. He loved that. He also loves sweets. So to be honest, I'm not to be rude to my dad or anything like that, but I had a pretty good I knew that he wasn't gonna make it like through like he wasn't those type of people that really took care of himself. So but he wanted to try out this hot dog. But being my dad was also very, very cheap too. And I remember we walk from Luxor and we walk all the way past like I think MGM or something like that. Like basically we walked from one end of the strip to the other side. And it was really hot that day. My brother was crying because my brother was maybe like 5 or something like that. He was like crying, dude. So we literally spent like a few hours like just walking that strip because we don't really walk fast. We have a little kid too. So we walk all the way. And it turns out that hot dog place fucking closed down. And my dad was like, I remember my dad felt so embarrassed. He's like, oh shit, it is what it is, man. And we ended up eating like $5 hot dogs or some shit like that. But you know, the reason why I tell this story is because I think it's so funny to see how cheap my dad was. And it kind of sucked at the time, I guess, because you got like your other son. My brother was like freaking starving and shit, and it was hot and all that. But it was very interesting to see how cheap my dad was. Of course, as we became richer and richer, like through my mom and dad's hard work, my dad became less cheap. And yeah, it's just very interesting though. I was like cracking up, dude. But yeah, and like I think that's the thing about my parents. Like I'm always very grateful about how they raise us, you know, because they always made time for like vacations. They always made time for like just to make us happy sometimes, you know. Like when it came to education, like my parents never ever skimped out. They sent us to summer school, they sent us to camps, they sent us to all these things. I have to say I am one of the luckiest motherfuckers. Like think about it. If I was born like across the world in North Korea or some shit like that, yo, I would not have the same life. And I'm very blessed. New founder asks, on a Sunday, what's your event? I'm going to a Jump Cut Academy event. They're doing some meetup thing. So I'm going to show up, meet some really cool people. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll high ticket clothes for them. But I'm really just there to just meet different creators and kind of, you know, change up my group of friends. Not to say I don't love my friends. I love my friends to death, but I feel like it's important for me right now to be around a lot of like-minded people who also want to do digital products or in that field, you know. So that's what I'm doing tonight. It should be really fun. I might go out later tonight too, but yeah. So that's the event I'm going to. And I've been trying to go to a lot more networking events or like events where I can meet different innovative people, you know. Because I'm definitely loving this entrepreneur hype train. And maybe in the future I'll go to a pharmacy event too. I remember back in the day, me and Brian were talking about Brian and I were talking about hitting up some pharmacy events too. So, do you like going to these events alone? I honestly prefer going with other people, just so that we can like collaborate. I know a few people like part of the jump cut team and stuff. So, it should be dope. I mean, I might be driving there alone, but I do know some people. But yeah, I mean, like sometimes I do get nervous too. I have bitch butterflies, but you have to real. I guess at the end of the day, it's very low risk too. Like just like when you pick up a girl sometimes or like talk to strangers, not all situations are going to be good. Sometimes the people you'll meet are really weird, or maybe they're it just doesn't work out. Maybe you give off a bad first impression. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people. I'm just trying to meet new people. So yeah, I mean, if anybody is in the LA area too, feel free to hit me up. And if you know an event that you want to go to, maybe I'll tag along or some shit like that, or I'll meet you there. But yeah, definitely want to do more of these meetup events. Even paid meetup events I think are a lot better. But yeah, um, and so my last story with my dad. So yeah, I guess that explains where I'm going tonight. But you know, and it was really tough. I was really thinking about the different stories I want to tell with my dad. Because there's just so many, but like I just don't remember them all, which is kind of bad, you know, because I'm gonna lose these stories as I get older. So I just want to document it. But this is like one of the most memorable stories with my dad when he was still healthy. This isn't like him at the hospital or anything like that. But so for y'all that don't know, I went to Bermuda last year. I actually have a lot of footage of Bermuda, but I just never edited the footage. So I wanted to I do plan on doing it, but I really want to get an editor on my team because I just don't like editing that much. I mean, it's cool. Like I love, sometimes I really like editing. Other times I just like hate it because it's just like I have to free up my hard drive. I have to do this and do that and block out a good amount of time, you know? For y'all that have never done a YouTube video, it's a grind, bro. I'm not like Broke the Habit who can pump out so much content in a little time and make it look really good. That's just not my strength. My strength is just like really talking to people, really caring about them and shit. And I'm looking at the stream right now. Only 3 people still. Holy shit. There's like really not a lot of people today. But I don't blame people. Probably they're like we're at EDC and shit. And yeah. And probably it's the NBA Celtics are playing and shit. So I don't expect most of my fan base to be watching. But anyways, yeah, so I went to Bermuda last year with my family. It was a surprise birthday for my grandma, and all of us pretty much went. Because my grandma is turning 80 years old, but who knew it would actually be the last vacation with my dad? And you know, it was very interesting because you have to realize me and my dad, we for so many years we actually fought all the time. And in May, I remember going through this like emotional intelligence seminar and shit by Choice Center. It was really good. Even though I think Choice is kind of culty, and I said it multiple times, but I think it's a good program. And it actually gave me the motivation to actually reach out to my dad and just be like, hey dad, you know, going forward, I want a better relationship with you. You can actually find some of my videos from last year around this time, talking about my relationship with my dad and stuff. And yeah, so I go on this vacation with my parents, and my mom was rooming with my grandma, and I was rooming with my dad. My brother was with his girlfriend, but I remember, man, it was just like, yo, this is the first time I really got to chill with my dad, really got to know him, heard about his childhood. We talked about music, like Smokey Robinson and all that. Talked about him having like a Beatles album, but somebody stole that shit from him and how he got burned. We spent that whole week together. But one of the moments that I really want to talk about, or that I remember, was that my dad so my grandma was giving a speech, and this is like this is like the talk where, like, this is what I want to know before before I pass away. This is all the things I want you to know. And it was a very emotional speech. Like, my brother was crying. Like, there was a lot. It was very emotionally charged. And so after, you know how Chinese people are, right? There was like a few aunts like teasing like my cousin, and I got really pissed off. I was like, dude, how dare you? That's family right there. Like, dude, you don't kick someone when they're down. Like, you ask them, hey, what's going on? So I go up to my cousins, I talk to them. I'm just like, hey, tell me what you're thinking. Like, and I just use my magical touch on them and just listen to them and really talk things out. Anyways, my dad was like, hey, I really, like, he came up to me. He was like, hey, I really appreciate what you did with your cousins. I was like, really? Tell me about it, And he was like, yeah, like, and I was just telling him, like, dude, I feel so pissed off like that our own family would just tease our like cousins like that. You know what I mean? And I was with my dad and we were talking, and I was just like, because one of the things that really got to me was like, with my other grandma, with my dad's mom, I never got any goodbye speech or anything like that. And it was just like, it would mean the world to me if I heard like a final goodbye from my grandma. But sometimes in life, we just don't get second chances, or we don't get that opportunity to say goodbye to people. And so, yeah, man, at this point, I was just like, man, I feel so guilty with grandma, because part of the reason why, I was just telling my dad, I was just like, I feel very guilty. You know why? I came to California, I left home. I wanted to build this new life here, but I never really got to spend time with grandma. And when I did come back, I was so angry because, not angry, like not spiteful, but I was like, man, grandma doesn't even remember me. What's the point? And then pretty much later, maybe I visited once or twice more, but then she passed away, and I was just like, I feel so guilty for that. Like, I should have visited grandma a lot more near the end. And then I remember my dad saying like, hey, grandma loved you very much. And at this point, I'm like bawling my eyes out, and he was like, like, I talked to grandma a few times before she went. And I was like, oh, really? Tell me about it. And then he was like, mom, me and grandma, like, we know that you want to build a new life. We know like your ambitions. We know like how hard you work. And just to hear that recognition from my dad after all those years, man, that's something very rare. Like, I think it was something I was always looking for that I never really got. But I feel like such a failure in the family. Like, I feel like, I've always been like that disgrace to the family, just because I just always felt that way, like everything I did, like when I was a kid and all that sort of stuff. Like, I never drank, I never smoked. I always tried to be the best child that I could be, but it just never seemed enough for you ever, And he was like, Kevin, like, you are successful. I'm very proud of you, And that was one of the best gifts I've ever gotten in life, to be honest with you. To have like this parent who, I don't want to say was like my worst enemy, but like, I don't know, like, I think with my dad, like, it was very tough, like, that situation growing up, because like the way I felt, like, nothing I did was ever enough. And now here we are, like 29 years later, and he's acknowledging me for everything. It just felt like it was a long time coming, man. And I was just like, man, finally I feel like validated, and just like all my work went to something, you know what I mean? Like, I'm actually on the right path. And later, when my dad passed away later that year, I was like, God damn, thank God I did that, because I would have never had another choice or another chance to. And even as my dad was like, before he went off to surgery and stuff, like, my dad he's like, dude, I believe in you. I believe in like anything you do. I might not know what you do, but I believe in you. And I always kind of remember that. It was one of my biggest decision makers to actually like put a hold on my pharmacy career and do what I love and chase my dreams and all that bullshit, you know. Sometimes in life we just need that kick in the ass, you know. And for me, that was the moment where I just woke up and I was just like, something's got to change, man, because I can't keep on living a life that I'm half-assing or half like living. You know what I mean? I'm not sure if you guys like understand what I'm trying to say and shit, but um, yeah. So yeah, man. I think tomorrow is Memorial Day, and I sort of shot this video so I could maybe one day show this video to my grandchildren, or maybe several generations from now, to know what their grandfather was like. And you know, I miss my dad a lot sometimes. um Even though I'm going through all this stuff right now, I'm just like, wow, man, like that, my like what I thought was always holding me back in life, I thought it was like my dad, the way he raised me, the this and that. He also gave me one of the biggest motivators in life, and it was that real wake-up call, like, hey, just do what you love, and if you put your mind to it, like, I believe in you. Maybe not like what you do, but I believe in you. And he actually believed in me, and man, it was one of the best things ever. Holy shit, that got deep. Yeah, man. So yeah, that is my dad. I think the reason why I told that story was just because the reason why I told that story about my dad was just because maybe my dad wasn't a perfect person, right? He wasn't the perfect person. He had his own shit. Like, my dad could never like admit he was wrong or take certain responsibility for certain things, right? And he was scared. He was so scared about like fixing certain problems. He's very on the conservative side. He was like, he's nothing like me, and I think that's why we clashed so much. But at the end of the day, my dad was very like caring and very loving, and he just showed it in his own weird way. I mean, of course, it was hella awkward sometimes with my dad. When I spent time with my dad would always ask weird questions. I remember like one time, like this isn't part of the three stories, but like one time I remember like we are coming back from Bermuda, and my dad was like we're going back to the house, and then my dad there was like Indian driver and stuff, like, and my dad was like, oh yeah, I watched a documentary on the Patels. What is it like? What is it like? And I was like, what the fuck? What kind of question do you ask like people, dude? That's like kind of rude and like all that. But my dad, he would try to be very conversational and try to be like, he would like talking a lot. And I think at the end of the day, my dad just wanted to connect with people, but he definitely did not have the social. Sorry, dude, all that shit came out of my nose. He definitely did not have the social skills to like converse and shit. I was just like dying, dude. I was like, oh my god. My mom and I, like, this is the common connection that my mom and I have, is just that we are always so damn embarrassed by my dad. Like, dad would always like do really embarrassing things, like, you know, at buffets and shit, you get ice cream cones and whatnot. They have the ice cream, you put in an ice cream cone. My dad would always, and if you don't want a cone, they have a dish, right? Like the ice cream dish. My dad would always go to like hometown buffet, and he would get the soup bowls, and freaking put that shit under. I was like, god damn, it's unlimited, man. You can make multiple trips. But that was my dad. And like, I would find like mayonnaise in the freaking closet. I remember when after my dad passed, like, I'm cleaning out his room, and I remember finding like 8 jars of mayo. That was so disgusting. But yeah, that's my dad, man. And he would do embarrassing things, but he was always very caring. You know, like he would always be very caring. I think near the end of life, he felt really kind of bad for putting me through all that, through a lot of unnecessary stuff. But my dad also made me really become like the hard worker I am today. You know, like if it wasn't for my dad, like my dad always stressed hard work. My dad was always like, I wouldn't say my dad was the hardest working person, but he definitely worked from an early age, right? And I remember him doing construction, like under a table and stuff when he was like 8. It was like crazy. My dad went through a lot of shit, you know, and I don't blame my dad. But yeah, my dad was definitely that person who made me like do a lot. It made me grow as a person. And I think one of the reasons why I have such deep stories is because like when anybody like if anybody shares like really deep stories, chances are they've been through some sort of deep pain as well. So like one of the reasons why I tell these stories and I talk about these stories is because back when I was a kid, I used to share a lot of these stories over the phone with my friends. Back when, you know, millennials used to talk on the phone and shit. Yeah, I used to do that all the time, and I used to share these stories all the time. And yeah, so yeah, my dad was a very unique person. Um, Definitely, I don't I don't think I would ever be like my dad, but definitely like I always knew that my dad was that type of person who would always do the right thing. Like he's that type to never lie on his taxes. He's that type of person who will always like he was very like generous from his heart, especially toward outside people. Like he would like always leave a really good tip. He would always like if there was like lost money or anything, he would always bring it up. Sometimes he was kind of naive. Like my mom would be like, "You're kind of naive by doing some of this stuff," you know. But that's one thing I always respect about my dad. He always had really good moral character, and that's something not every single family has, you know. So, especially being Chinese and shit, there's a lot of sketchy ass Chinese people, but my dad was not one of them. Partially because he was ABC baby, but just like me. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get going. I hope you guys have a great Memorial Day. I hope the Celtics win. And anyways, guys, I will see you guys next time. If you guys like this story, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Give this video a thumbs up, and also tell me what you're doing this Memorial Day. Let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Peace, mother people.